And in the break, you told me big decisions just like those out of the state of Missouri. Tell me what happened yesterday.
Well, recently, Missouri state legislature passed a law that bans healthcare providers from performing these gender transition procedures or giving these puberty blockers to or cross-sex hormones to people that are, not adults, that are under 18 years of old. I think part of the reason for that is you've got hospitals, in Missouri, in St. Louis, that were never saying no to anybody, as reported by, the Christian Post, New York Times, and other folks. And you had whistleblowers even coming out, saying that, wow, we're going to stop, giving counseling to you. You said you want to get this stuff. And man, probably when these kids need the counseling the most, you've got this sexual agenda.
So wait a second. Hold on. There was never a case that presented itself at this hospital where they said, "Yeah, you don't qualify," or maybe you shouldn't do that. Not one. They just everybody's yes. Get on the production line. Let's whack them and stack them.
Well, and that's the kind of mindset that is going on in all around the country, where let's put science out of the way, let's put political science in its place, let's make a whole lot of money doing it, and let's advance a political agenda along the way. And so, and unfortunately, it's these poor kids, that are confused, and there are many of them, including from this hospital, as reported by these various places, that are now trying to detransition because it wasn't right, but now all of a sudden they've had their breast cut off, or they've had something done that's almost irreversible. And as these newspapers were reporting, they didn't even, when that happened, they didn't get any reply from the healthcare. And so this is a kind of a scary time to be living and getting sick and going into a hospital, I think, because when you've got money driving the decisions, and when you've got politics driving the decision as opposed to science driving the decision, you better hope that the people's representatives start doing things like they've done in Europe, starting to regulate this a little bit better.
Yeah, they threw the brake in several countries in Europe. I just mentioned a couple of them. The brake's being thrown in several states now too, because Oklahoma and Missouri and others, like you said, have stepped up and said, "Look, we're not going to allow this to happen." Not to minors, they can't go stand in line and buy a beer. They can't sign a contract because they don't have the mental capacity to enter into a contractual arrangement, and yet we can mutilate their genitals for life. Because this is lifetime medical care. Once this happens, you have to remain on prescription drugs, on these medications, on all of this, which is why the suicide rates among those that have, quote unquote, had transition gender affirming surgery, the suicide rates are even higher in many studies than they are prior to such horrible disfigurements of the people, right?
Well, you have to ask, who really cares about these kids? Is
somebody
it the people
needs
that are
to
saying, "Hey, let's stop for a second and let's be rational," or is it the people that have this, political agenda? All kinds of things are happening, in this world where we're ignoring science. Michigan right now, it's looking like the American Sexual Liberties Union, the American Civil Liberties Union is going to, is pushing the legislature to repeal all protections for women and children, so that they can advance, their abortion agenda. Give me a break. Informed consent. You say that we shouldn't have informed consent for, for only this kind of, surgery. We're not supposed to, do all these things that, protect children in the womb. And even if you support abortion, how can you be opposing all this stuff unless the only thing that's driving you is, financial reward or a political agenda? So to get rid of abortion clinic regulations, to get rid of informed consent, to get rid of just a waiting period for you to think about it, to force the taxpayers to pay for abortions, none of these things, are accepted common medical practice even anymore. And the majority of citizens, don't support it. But you've got this narrow, they're hard driving political activists that are going to get it done if it's up to them.